Welcome back to another edition of Through the Smoke, a Miami Hurricanes football and recruiting podcast here on the 24/7 Sports Network. David Lake, joined as always by Gabby Urrutia. We're here to serve up some hot takes going into the 2025 season. Um, Kind of fun to think about, what's possible within reason. So we're kind of doing that in a hot take type of format. We got some hot takes, so we'll be coming in hot here this episode. Before we jump into things, want to highlight two of our sponsors, of course, Canes Connection. That's Miami's collective. Go to canesconnection.com to support those guys. Type in the promo code 247FRIENDS. You get 50% off your first month membership if you do that. And then, of course, after 3 months, you start getting some cool Canes Connection swag. So go support the program in that way. It's vital in the talent acquisition space. Also, if you've been injured in a car accident, go hit up our guy, Nick Musarino at the Musarino Law Group at 561-960-9870 or the musarinolowgroup.com. All right. So, Gabby, before we dive into the hot takes, Miami wrapped up their second scrimmage here on Sunday. To me, that's like the official close of camp. Now, does camp kind of linger a little bit here for a few more days? Probably technically yes, but for all intents and purposes, camp is closed, and now you kind of start preparing for Notre Dame. And just the little bit that we heard coming out of the second scrimmage, offense was great. Offense won that scrimmage. I think the defense probably had the edge. It was kind of a back and forth deal, but I think you'd give the edge to the defense in that first scrimmage. The second scrimmage, the offense definitely won that scrimmage. Carson Beck was sharp from everything I've been told. I think the tight ends had a very productive day in the passing game. I think, Malachi Tony had a productive day as an inside receiver for the passing game. I think Jordan Lyle had a big day, and the offensive line was dominant. So it was, overall, this camp has been a pretty competitive back and forth between the offense and defense. And I think that was shown in the scrimmages. First scrimmage, defense had the edge. Second scrimmage, offense kind of, did what they did. So good competitive camp. And now it's about, luckily too, probably the most important thing, honestly. They escaped camp without any massive major injuries. You're gonna always have your knocks and bumps and bruises from camp, but in terms of like long-term massive injuries, Miami didn't sustain any in camp to any significant players. So that's a plus. And now it's all about just kind of recuperating the body, getting the body healthy, preparing well for Notre Dame in week 1, which is now less than 2 weeks away. So football's right around the corner. All right. So, Gabby, let's dive into some hot takes that you and I had. Before we do that, let me pull up my phone here because I actually went back and listened
Ooh.
to our hot takes from last year.
Oh, let's hear him.
And so we got to have a little report card here
Yeah.
from hot takes. And look, man, like I think you and I purposely do, our hot takes are supposed to be hot. Like they're supposed to be kind of borderline outlandish. And I think in hindsight, like now that we know the results of like what the season was, some of these might not sound so bold. But we did hit on a good number. Um, and so, yeah, we kind of did this last year within our season preview in a position by position way, like have a hot take about quarterback, running
Yeah.
back. You know what I mean? So, quarterback, my hot take was Cam Ward is going to be Miami's best quarterback since Ken Dorsey, and he will
Hit it.
break the single season passing yards record and TD record.
Oof. Nailed it.
You said we'll break the passing TD record. Nailed it.
Okay, there you
So
go.
we both got checks there. Running back, Gabby said Damian Martinez sets a career high in rushing yards, gets 1,200 yards at
Oof.
least. So just missed
Nailed.
it. He cracked 1,000, but just missed it. I also missed the running back one. I said Miami will average 200 rushing yards as a team per game. They were at 189. So they fell short of that. Wide receiver, Gabby, you said 3 of the receivers will go for at least 600 yards. So you hit. I said 3 of the receivers will go for at least 800 yards.
Ooh.
So I did not hit. Only one did last year in Xavier Restrepo. Tight end. You said Elijah Arroyo makes an all ACC team. That hits. I said the tight end group will get 1,000 yards collectively. That did not hit. They finished with 897.
Ooh.
So kind
Close
of
though.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty close.
I mean, the tight end talking point was kind of big this time last year, if you
Yeah.
remember, because what was that, 23? Arroyo got hurt and they
Yeah,
didn't
he
really
basically
produce.
missed the whole, and he never really came back from it. Like we never really
Yeah,
saw him. And there was
right.
optimism going into the season, like, hey, he would be good, but we hadn't really seen it yet.
Correct, correct. Offensive line. This was also kind of, it's interesting listening to this stuff back because offensive line at this time last year, like, I think the feeling was good about the offensive line, but there were still question marks in terms of like, can Jalen Rivers take the next step at left tackle? What do they have at left guard? Is the center Zach Carpenter good enough? Um, so it wasn't like a lock that Miami's offensive line was going to be good. So my hot take was, especially coming from the 23 offensive line, because that offensive line was really good.
Yep.
Essentially, probably 5 future NFL players on that 23 offensive line. So my hot take was Miami's going to take a step back on the offensive line, a small step back, but they're still going to be very good. Um, kind of in the same ballpark, in terms of their ability as the previous year. That was a hit. Gabby, you said you were all in on Inez Cooper, and I did remember the Inez Cooper buzz
Buzz.
in camp last year. You said Inez. I had I had some really bad takes coming up on defense. You said Inez Cooper emerges as a national name at right guard,
Oof. That did not happen.
which I mean he's very good. He's going to play in the
Yeah.
NFL. Um, Defensive line. Oh, this was a miss for me. I said the defensive line alone, so only the defensive linemen will generate at least 35 sacks.
Oof. What was
They
the total number?
they finished with 27. I said
Ah.
35 because that's what the entire team did the previous year.
Mm,
Bain's injury didn't help my
of
case,
course.
but that was a miss. Gabby, you said Tyler Barron. I'm not trying to laugh at your
No, no,
take.
no. It's fine. I'm here for it. I'm
No,
here
no,
for
no.
it. Let's
No,
hear it.
it's just funny to listen. I have a really bad one. It's just funny to listen to it in hindsight. Tyler Barron puts it all together and puts himself in the first or second
Oof.
round.
Oof. No. Where did he go in like the fifth or sixth?
I think it was fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and look, Tyler Barron, if he had his head on straight the whole
Yeah.
year, he could have
Early on, it wasn't looking
mattered
bad.
more.
Yeah.
Right.
Early on, there was some
The
traction there.
Florida game, I mean,
Yeah,
he
he looked
was
like a beast.
legit. Linebacker, I said Kiko cracks 100 tackles. That was a miss, but I was close. He finished with 96. Um, Gabby, you said Kiko makes first team All ACC.
Oof.
That was a miss.
Big miss.
DB,
Getting rough out here. I'm rethinking all my takes now.
DB, you had a hit here. You
Oh,
said
let's go.
OJ Frederic regarded as an impact freshman
Okay.
nationally,
There we go.
freshman All-American. So
Let's go.
you got that.
I needed to get back in the win column.
This is one where I hit epically bad. Uh, I said the secondary will do a better job. And listening back, I'm like, this makes no sense. What was I talking about? They'll do a better job of containing the big play because the group won't be as talented, but they'll be better connected. And they won't have players that freelance as much as the previous year. That did not prove to be
True. It's all
true
right.
whatsoever.
Hey,
That was bad. They were
we're
terrible.
this is us being
And they were
accountable
not
though.
connected.
They were not
They
connected.
were
They were
awful.
not. It was historically bad.
But
But
that
look
was
at
that was the party line last year,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
and it
it
was kind of
was.
like, whatever. I'll
Yeah.
I'll throw it in for a hot
Participate.
take. Yeah.
Participate.
And then our season prediction. Do you remember what you said last season?
I don't.
What do you think you said for regular season record?
10 and I don't know if I said 10 or 11. 11, did I say 11 wins?
11-1. which
Okay.
they should have been. I
Should have
mean,
been.
should have been 11-1. I said 10-2, which
There you go.
unfortunately hits.
Nailed it.
They should have been 11-1 though. So those were last year. It was interesting to listen to. I mean, if you got to
Yeah.
be a psycho fan to go back and listen to that, but we were honestly kind of spot on everything. Um,
Yeah.
with
Like
the
the season
team.
preview, like
Yeah,
our feel for the team.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
So
we have a pretty good read on this team too. So
let's
excited
see.
about where. Hopefully, we'll see. I guess we'll find out we'll find out next mid-August the feel we had
Report
on this
card.
one. Report
All right.
card time.
So you serve it up. So where do you want to take? What do you have a hot take you're passionate about in
Yeah.
general with this team?
Yeah, I'll start with the quarterback, right? I mean, we started with with Cam Ward last year. Well, let's dial it up with Carson Beck. David, I know you have a good one for this one too, and I think it'll transition nicely into yours. But uh, I feel like I phrase this in a complicated way, but I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Let's
So
go.
Carson Beck breaks the previous single season touchdown and passing
Okay.
yards record.
So Kozar and
So
Walsh.
Kozar and Walsh's record. I don't think I'm not saying he's going to break Cam Ward's record,
Okay.
but I think Bernie Kozar was 3,642 passing yards. Steve Walsh was 29 touchdowns. Hot take. Carson Beck beats both of those marks. So essentially saying Miami's two best quarterbacks in program history
Yeah.
are going to be Cam Ward and then Carson Beck in back-to-back seasons, sir. At least most productive quarterbacks.
Yes, I think that's on the table. And um, I think the other thing to go along with that is like, look, again, they're going to get compared just because they're following each other, or
Right.
Carson's following Cam. Carson's not Cam, but I do think it's fair to say, like, if Cam Ward didn't happen last year, Carson Beck would be Miami's best quarterback since Ken Dorsey.
Yeah.
And, we'd all be losing our minds about what we're seeing on Green Tree practice field
Yeah.
with Carson Beck. Yeah, I mean, I think those numbers, look, his his Georgia numbers in terms of yardage will put him in that ballpark if he produces at that level. His touchdown numbers, he hasn't surpassed 30 touchdowns yet passing in
Yeah.
a season yet. So, I mean, I do think I think he'll be in that 30 range this year. So my hot take, similar, like, look, if Cam Ward produces at that level and it leads to Miami winning pretty big, then I think my hot take is I think we're going to see Carson Beck be a Heisman finalist in New
Oof.
York City. I went back and looked at the last 4 cycles of Heisman Trophy voting. At the quarterback position, their production level, what it takes, and their win total, what it takes. You got to be that double-digit win total. Your
Yeah.
team has to be good, or you have to be highly productive. There was a few cases where under 4,000 passing yards, those guys were finalists. Like like Dylan Gabriel last year was that guy. He had 30 touchdown passes, threw for 3,800 yards. Max Duggan, the TCU year in 22 was 3,600, 32 touchdowns. Now he ran for a bunch too. Stetson Bennett in 22, he threw for a lot, 4,000 passing yards, 27 passing touchdowns. That was the
Wow.
lowest passing touchdowns,
Yeah.
but then he ran for 10, so totaled 37 touchdowns. So you kind of got to be in that like 3,800 to 4,000 plus passing yards, and you got to be like 30. You got to account for 35 touchdowns,
Yeah.
and of course your team has to be good. So I think what would really help this case as well is Miami gets off to a hot start. Miami handles business and wins the Notre Dame season opener, and Carson Beck plays well in that game. He's going to be vaulted into that
For sure.
conversation. So,
Because he's been in that conversation before. Like this
right,
isn't outlandish conversation around Carson Beck because a couple
right.
years ago he entered the season as, or maybe it was last season, he entered the season as, I don't know if he was the Heisman favorite, David. He might have a better grasp on that, but I feel like he was
He
one of the
might have
guys that
been.
was in the discussion to
Yeah,
potentially be the #1 overall pick, right? Like that was on the
yeah.
table, just considering where Carson Beck was the year before. So, yeah, I think I think if people see the 2023 version of Carson Beck kind of come back up in a Notre Dame game like that in a big win, I think Carson Beck could easily get back into that conversation pretty quickly if that game goes
Yeah.
well.
I think the bottom line we're both hinting at is we expect him to produce
Yeah,
well, play well in this offense. All right, let's stay on offense, and I have a hot take to bring to the table.
do it.
Uh, Malachi Tony, the reclassified true freshman slot receiver. So he's a guy that should technically be a senior in high school this fall. I think he's going to lead the team in receiving yards
Yeah.
because number one, he's ultra talented. He, to me, is their best slot receiver on this team. And slot receivers in the Shannon Dawson offense produce at a big time level. Like, honestly, Gabby, maybe this is the hot take, but I think the transition from Restrepo to Malachi Tony is going to be a smooth one. Like, I
Yeah.
think, and rightly so, right? Coming into camp, it's kind of like, man, how's Miami gonna replace Restrepo? I think Malachi Tony is going to challenge for 1,000-yard season as a true freshman out of the slot.
Yeah, look, I think that's gonna sound like a hot take to a lot of
Right.
people, but I think, look, what I'm hearing on Malachi Tony, and I think we were both a little skeptical. I think just kind
I
of on this
was.
situation, as a
To
whole.
be fair, yeah. I mean, look,
Yeah,
as you got to go show it. You got to go
yeah,
do
for
it.
sure,
You
for
know what I
sure.
mean? And he has this camp. He has.
Exactly. Just doing it in this setting, and look, you talk to anyone around the program or people that have been around, like it's just you can't deny what he's done, what he's gone out on Green Tree and the way he's handled business and talking to people, they kind of bring up this like veteran level savviness and
Yes.
feel for the
He
position.
is Restrepo. Like he really
Yeah.
is.
It
I mean,
seems it seems like no
they're very
one
similar players.
no one's worried about this. Like no one
Yeah.
seems concerned about this. And to your point, David, the slot position just produces in these offenses. You look at what Xavier Restrepo did over the last 2 years in the Shannon Dawson offense. You go back to Shannon Dawson's days at Houston. You see what Tank Dell did, from the slot in that Shannon Dawson offense, where he was unbelievably productive and got drafted really, really high. I think it's on the table. If Malachi Tony could be a similar type of player, which again I think is kind of on the table, as crazy as that might be, as that might sound to some people that are listening to this, just being like, how are you going to compare him to Restrepo? It's just like Malachi Tony's super talented, and there
Yeah.
is no hesitate. To me, I don't get any hesitation of just being like, yeah, we'll see when the lights are on. He's young, all that stuff. Like people, I think this kid's
No.
earned it.
Yeah.
I think he's earned the trust of of everyone on the team. I think he's earned the trust of Carson Beck. He's earned the trust of the coaching staff because of the way that he's performed, plain and simple. So I'm with you on that hot take. I do think Malachi Tony leads Miami in receiving yards, and again, this is not something I thought I would be saying like
I agree.
a few months ago. So, but I'm on board. I'm here for it.
Can he top Amon Richards' freshman record?
Ooh, that's a good one. What is it? 900,
934.
934. Yeah, I mean, I think it's on the table. I
I
mean,
do
if
too.
I think that's definitely on the table. All right, so sticking with on offense, I'll go to the running backs. I don't know if this is a hot take. It felt like a hot take, but maybe I don't know
Let's
if I
go.
don't know if it is. Miami's top three running backs rush collectively, so not the
Okay.
whole running back. Like, so this doesn't include like random, or even like a fourth running back. So I'm talking Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, Shamar Brown. Um, I think Miami's top three running backs rush for over 2,000 yards. Last year's group of Damian Martinez, Mark Fletcher, and Jordan Lyle ran for 2,009 yards. So
Okay.
basically, kind of suggesting that Miami is still a highly efficient rushing team. That group also averaged 5.7 yards per carry, which is a really, really big
What's
number.
holding you back from just flat out saying this group's going to rush for more?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like 2,000 yards is a lot. Isn't like I feel like that's a pretty. What does that average out to
2000.
per
Yeah, I
game?
mean 2000 is a lot. I mean it's a good
What would be
number.
hotter? Like 22, like I didn't know like what's like pushing it. 2,200 is that like would that be hotter? I guess. Well, I mean obviously it's a bigger number, but last year's group
Yeah.
ran for 2,000,
Do you
2009,
think
and
this year's group is better than last year's group? Let's just start there.
yeah, I mean I don't
Because I
know,
mean
just
last year's group
because
is a
had an
good group.
NFL guy. Yeah, I mean had an NFL guy and two of the same guys that were
Right.
here.
I
Um,
hear I mean I'm hearing really good things about Brown though. The
yeah.
the North
Oh yeah,
Dakota
for
State
sure.
transfer.
For
Like
sure. It's a good group.
and it's going to be it's going to be a bigger point of emphasis
Yeah.
this year.
All right, we can pump
And
this thing up. I'm here for it. You're talking me into you. I mean, you can talk me into anything right now, man. So
and
we can
it's
go 2,200 yards.
I'm getting rave reviews on Jordan Lyle.
Yeah,
So,
Jordan. You know I'm a Jordan Lyle guy.
right.
Jordan Lyle lead. I mean, I think he's the 1,000 yard back in this room if there is one. So
There you go.
there, that could be another hot take. You can throw it in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't push back on that right now. I think, I definitely think Mark is good and but I think Jordan might be the one. And then Mark's a really good complementary back, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
You got another one for offense because I got one more on the
Go
offensive
for it.
side of the ball.
Go
If
for it.
if you want to move over to defense on your end, the offensive line is a finalist for the Joe Moore Award.
Which
So
would
that's
be
the
top 10, right?
yeah or yeah. I mean I don't know how many finalists there are
I
at
think
the end of
it's
the
10.
season. Is it 10 total finalists and then they pick one?
Yep.
Okay, so maybe I should have just
Well,
dropped
no,
it.
no.
Maybe
10
they yeah.
semifinalists.
I will say maybe it's like five or three.
5. It's probably yeah,
I'm basically saying like they'll be in like that whatever that final cut is if it's five or three or whatever it is that it ends up being at the end.
right.
I thought last year it was three. I thought I saw like a few.
I
I thought I
think
saw
you're
a
right.
couple that it might have ended up being three. Um, that was basically what I'm saying is I think they'll be at least be a final. I'm not sure. I mean, if they win it, it's a different thing. But I think Miami at the end of the season is going to be a finalist for the Joe Moore Award with this big offensive line. Obviously, that means a few things. Markel Bell taking just that next step that I think we feel like he has the potential to take. Matthew
I think
McCoy.
he has in
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. And Matthew McCoy taking that, being the player that I think internally they believe him to be, just that big 6'6", potentially 6'7", 335 pound, uh, you know, big time dude that can anchor the left side of that line, along with Markel, and then just a Nez Cooper taking that next step. I thought he was going to be a national name last year, just really elevating that thing, and then
I think he
Francis
will
Mauigoa,
be.
obviously, potential, seems like a future first round pick, barring some unforeseen circumstances there. But I think that this is a really, really talented offensive line. I think it's going to be really good. And again, my hot take is they are a finalist for that extremely prestigious award.
And everything, in camp that we're hearing about that group, they're performing well. Um, do you think that group is going to be better than the 2023 group?
I think it can be. I think it has the potential to be. That 23 group. I mean, you got a freshman, true freshman. It's Francis Mauigoa, but you got a freshman right tackle on that group.
Mm,
Who's the right? You got a young Inez Cooper, so basically two of
yep.
the same guys that were starting there. Matt Lee. I mean, I would probably take Matt Lee
Matt
over.
Lee's the tough one to
Yeah,
beat.
and then Cohen and Bell. I would. I mean, I think is
Cohen and
Cohen and
Rivers.
Rivers to Bell and McCoy. Like, I think you could probably make an argument there that this group has maybe higher ceiling. I guess if you want to call
Yeah,
it that. I'm not sure. But I think if this group hits, yeah, I mean, I think that this group could be the best one that Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal, of course, have had here.
yeah,
A lot of homegrown guys too. I mean, outside of the center, but I think this line has been kind of
right.
years in the making, and I think it's at a place where it's just it's as good as it's been.
I agree. I think it's on the table. We'll see. I'm not there. I'm not gonna crown him yet. I mean, Matt Lee was such a nasty center.
Yeah,
He
he was
really
a
was.
beast. He really was
Uh,
a beast.
but that's a good one. Um, I'm gonna go with for my next one. I'm gonna say the defensive line is gonna be a top 10 group in the country.
Oof.
A lot of this is because Ruben Bain is back to being Ruben Bain. Keep getting rave reviews on how he's performing in camp to this point, which is very encouraging. They need him to, you know, not only return to his freshman form, but also take the next step from that. And I think he has. From everything I've been told, he's back to looking like Ruben Bain. Also, Akeem Mesidor, he's in great shape. I think he's, looking to end his college career on a strong note. And, I think it's exciting too to think about those two guys together because they haven't played together yet for an entire season. Um, in the 23 year, which was Ruben's freshman year. Mesidor was shut down with, I believe, a foot thing that year. And then last year, Bain, had that nagging injury, the soft tissue injury, and was never really fully himself the rest of the year. And so now they're both fully healthy. They both put a lot into their conditioning, and both have looked good in camp, I think, to this point. I think so. Here's a conversation to have with you, Gabby. Defensive tackle. How would you compare the group year over year? Do you feel better about this group of defensive tackles compared to last year's group of defensive tackles? I will say, like this year's group, the most buzz I'm getting, honestly, at camp is about David Blay. I also think Justin Scott's doing pretty well. And Ahmad Moten is, he's doing Ahmad Moten things. So those are your top three. How would you compare this top three to last year's top three, which would be Simeon Barrow was the top one. Then what? Ahmad Moten was in
Yeah,
there
Mod Bowden.
too.
Then
Uh,
what? You got like a young Justin Scott. Who else did we have in there?
so it was C.J. Clark,
CJ Clark.
Marley Cook.
Right.
They would
Yes.
kick they would kick Mesidor in there if you want to
Right.
count that. But let's just count let's say
The
it's
true the true defensive tackles. Yeah, I would take. I
Simeon
mean, I
Barrow,
definitely.
Ahmad Moten, CJ Clark.
Yeah, I would take this. I would take this
I would
three
too.
over that three. Simeon Barrow was a really good player, obviously a little undersized, but I thought he was really, really. I mean,
Active. Yeah.
there was times where he looked like the best player on. It wasn't a great defense, but he looked like the best player on that defense. Obviously, Ruben Bain was out or not 100% for a lot of the time, and but then CJ, you get to the CJ Clark, and I feel like that was kind of like a. I was kind of like a meh type of. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think I like this group. I think just even prototypically, right? Like just you got David Blay, the big body. Ahmad Moten's a big body. Justin Scott's a big athletic body, and I think I think your top three defensive tackles. There's a lot of confidence in. And I think if those guys are available and are able to kind of be a part of this thing the whole way through, which is hard, right? Like it's hard to project that, or it's hard just because it's such a physical position and obviously such a physical sport. But yeah, I like those three a lot, and I think Miami could be really good, especially with the way you can supplement. Talk about being able to kick multiple guys inside. Like you can always there's some versatility where you can kick Messidor inside, you can kick Armando Blunt inside, you can kick Ruben Bain inside, you can kick all these guys
Yeah.
inside, and there's a strong group of edge rushers where I think you can kind of play some matchups, and I think there are answers, and that's what I love about this defensive line is that I think that there are answers. And I think, again, just the feedback I get too, David, I feel like there are just good, like, kind of scheme fits for this specific
Yeah.
Corey Heatherman defense that's about getting vertical, right? Like, I think this defensive line is asked to kind of just get vertical and get after the quarterback. And I think that there are a lot of guys on this defensive line that's kind of their wheelhouse. Like, that's kind of what they're best at. And I think that there's going to be a lot of production and disruption from this defensive front because of the way that they're being asked to play.
How do you feel like the depth of the edge rushers compares to last year's group too? Because look, honestly, I think like last year's top three are better than this year's top three because Tyler Barron still was an
Yeah,
NFL
for
draft
sure.
pick, right? Now, if Ruben Bain is Ruben Bain, we got a conversation because Ruben
Yeah.
Bain as a game wrecker changes that conversation. But let's see. Let's see if that happens. Uh, but when you get to number four is and maybe even number five is where you start to maybe give the edge to this year's group because
Hmm.
Armando Blunt, Marquise Lightfoot, they're both gonna have a pretty nice role, I think, in
Yeah.
this defense, and they're talented former five-star recruits who are, performing well in camp and gonna have opportunities to make plays. Malik Bryant to me is kind of like a, strictly pass rush guy, kind of like that Elijah Alston-ish type of guy from last year. And Elijah Alston was their number 4 last year. Also, Hayden Lowe, like I don't know how much Hayden Lowe we're gonna see in the first half of the season. Um, but I think in the second half of the season, as he works his way into the college level, we could see more of him. And he's a super talented true freshman. Um, I think you could argue the depth of the pass rushing is better with this group. than last
Yeah.
year's group.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe top end talent. It's hard to ignore. Tyler Barron at his best was really, really good. Again, we didn't always get that version of him, but
At his
yeah,
worst was
uh,
really bad
his
too.
worst was exactly at his worst was detrimentally bad.
Unplayable.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just get bad. Like, you cannot be on the field. It's bad. Yeah, I do like this group just because of the depth, right? And I just love the way that it could potentially look. Like, even if you're dipping into that depth, and the way that you can dip into that depth and play the combinations without kind of losing like, obviously you're maybe not getting the quality or production of a Ruben Bain, but you could still get some solid play, and you can play with some of the things where it's like, even if it is kicking Ruben Bain inside or just moving things around a little bit, and you still have a solid group of edge rushers where if you want to play around like that, like, you got guys that you can lean on and depend on along the edges there. I love the depth there, and you talk about Hayden Lowe as what, the
Fifth or sixth.
fifth or sixth. I mean, that's a good situation now, because I mean, I think we both have, from what we have seen, we've seen some positives from Hayden Lowe.
Oh,
Again,
he's
is he
good.
ready? Is he ready to
Yeah,
go right now, or whatever the case is? Is it just a product of the situation and just how deep Miami is
I
that we're
think
talking
that's
about
what
him
it
there?
is.
And I think because of that,
Yeah,
from what we've seen from Hayden Lowe, the fact that he is your sixth defensive end to me is a very, very encouraging sign about the state of that room. And and look, I mean, even down the line, as if you even kind of, I mean, Herbert Scroggins is a guy that I think that,
he is. He flashes.
there's something there for
Yeah,
sure. I mean, I think that the edge room in general, top to bottom, I think maybe even if we're looking back, like, we're doing this a year from now, like, I think that we're gonna feel maybe better about this edge group now. There's just obviously some things we don't know about. Maybe
yeah.
the depth, like, there's still unproven guys, that guys haven't really played yet, but there's a ton of talent in that room, and it seems like there's confidence that some of these guys are ready to turn the corner and get on the field and start making some plays.
Where do you got on defense?
Oh yeah, defense. One of Xavier. Again, I don't know if I'm kind of bailing out here. Like, I feel like my hot takes aren't so hot. One of Xavier Lucas or OJ Frederic earns first team All ACC recognition. And again, I don't know if that's like a super hot take, but obviously those are two
It
young
is.
cornerbacks.
Neither
And
of them were preseason.
yeah, exactly. Or
So
I don't even know if any of them were preseason second team or whatever the case is. But I think Miami has two extremely, extremely talented cornerbacks. And again, I think especially Xavier Lucas, people don't really know about him yet. Like, I don't think he's on a lot of these national radars
even
outside of the,
Frederic,
yeah,
honestly.
outside of the lawsuit for Xavier Lucas. Like, that's kind of what he's known for right now. I don't think people realize yet how good of a player he is. I don't think people realize that OJ Frederic could be even better in 2025 than he was in 24, and he was surprisingly excellent in 2024. So again, I just think Miami has two really good cornerbacks. I think one of those guys has like true, like, first team All ACC potential. So it's early in their careers, maybe that hot take
That's
is
the
a year too
crazy thing,
early.
though. They'll be the
Yeah.
starters next year
Yeah,
too.
that'll be the starting corners next year. It's a really, really good situation at cornerback, which is nuts considering, again, what it looked like last year. But I'm a believer in this cornerback group and just how talented they are.
Yeah. No, they're a great group. So that goes into my next hot take, somewhat. I have Miami being a top 20 team nationally in offense and defense.
Ooh,
And I just kept this simple. I just made it for offense, points per game, for defense, points per game allowed, because ultimately that's
yeah,
what matters most,
right.
points. Um, so I went back and looked, right, last year, which teams accomplished that, being top 20 in offense and defense. 5 college football playoff teams did it: Ohio State, Notre Dame, Indiana, Tennessee, and Oregon. So your national championship game had both teams
Yeah.
meeting that mark. There's only one non college football playoff team who was top 20 in both offense and defense. And honestly, like, statistically, Ole Miss had a strong case to be in the college football playoff, and they would have been a dangerous college football playoff team, but they lost some SEC games. I forget to who. They lost an
Was it
SEC.
Oklahoma?
That was Bama.
Oh, that was Bama.
I think
Bama.
they lost a game to either Bama or South Carolina, and that like put them, that
Yeah.
automatically put them behind them because they
Yeah.
were also in the discussion. But like statistically, Ole Miss had the profile of being like a problem of a team to play. So, anyways, there were 6 teams that accomplished that feat. And I think Miami's gonna, I do think Miami's offensive course is gonna take a step back. But honestly, like I'm pretty confident that Miami's gonna be a top 20 offense. Are you? Like
Yeah.
quarterback, to me, they're gonna have a top 10, at least a top 10 quarterback in the country. And I think their offensive line, I agree with you. I think it's a top 5 offensive line in the country. Those two things alone that puts you in the top 20 offense
Yeah,
typically.
for sure.
And then defense, again, we just spoke about how high I am on the defensive line. You just spoke about how good they're going to be at corner. It's beyond those two, by the way. Like Keontae Scott is going to be a good nickel. Ethan O'Connor and Damari Brown are your third and fourth corners. I feel like, Gabby, I don't know if you feel this way too, but like I feel like, you know, we've watched a decade of Canes football where, and this isn't a bad thing, but like we've watched a decade of Canes football where like we'd go into a season and Ethan O'Connor and Damari Brown would be your starting corners, and then your starting nickel would be Charles Brantley.
Yeah.
And those are the 3 backups.
Right.
So
It's a great situation.
yeah, they're deep, they're talented. When you have a good defensive line and a good cornerback room, I think you're going to have a top 20 defense. So, and essentially what I'm saying then with that is the probability is in your favor that you're going to be in the college football playoff.
Yeah. I think it's a I think that that's definitely on the table. I mean, just I again, we're not going to see the number one offense in the country. It's not going to happen, but I think Miami's right there when it comes to just being a top 20 group. And again, I'm a believer in this defense and that it's going to take, the steps to potentially be there. Again, I think they're good at the places that you need to be good. And you even talk about just like how the way that they improved at linebacker by going
Yeah,
out and getting a Mo Torre and
right.
adding more depth with Camille Bonner and Wesley Bassett potentially taking that next step in year 4. Like I think all the pieces are there on defense for again. I think we've
Let me ask you
yeah.
this.
Go ahead.
The more we learn about safety during camp, are you getting more comfortable with that group?
Definitely.
Because Bryce Fitzgerald is coming on
Yeah.
strong, the true freshman. And Dylan Day I think he's elevated himself as being a guy that's going to be in the rotation and be a
Yeah.
solid player there.
Yeah, no, I feel way better about the safety situation. Just I think we didn't know a lot about Jacoby Thomas,
Yeah,
just coming in. I think we just didn't have a ton of information about him. And
he's going to be
watching him in
solid.
person, I think he's going to be a good player. I think Zechariah Poyser, people keep asking like, oh, what's going on with Zechariah Poyser? Like, we never hear anything on it. I just think he's a steady guy. Like
Yeah,
he's just someone that's reliable that is going to
yeah,
be a good, solid, strong player. Like, I don't know I don't know what it looks like as far as just like an NFL projection right now. I think we're still, maybe figuring, but
yeah.
he's going to be a good player. Like I think Zechariah Poyser is going to be a really good player. And then the depth, I feel actually a little bit better about. I would say
I
just
do.
with Dylan Day. I thought he had a really good fall camp, and I think we saw what he did on special teams
It
last year.
seemed
Like
like
he's willing to bring
Heatherman
it.
seemed like Heatherman was excited by him
Yeah,
when
yeah,
he spoke about him at the
I'm
press
here for
conference.
that. Like I'm
So
not like if I see 23 on the field this year, like I'm not concerned about it. Like last year if it wasn't one of the top 2 guys, which I was naturally worried about, like it was just like oh, like there's no real answers here. I
right.
think that there are answers, and Bryce Fitzgerald's coming in the summer. I think has made a really really strong
Yeah,
impression with just the athletic upside's always been there, right? He's a state champion in 3 different sports at the high school level. Helped Belen Jesuit win their first ever basketball state title as a sophomore, transfers to Columbus, wins a state title as a junior, picked off 10 passes, and then is like on like a 4x100 team that breaks the record at Miami Columbus, and they win a gold medal as a sprinter. And then he ran like a 10-600 like at Bryce Fitzgerald's
he
long.
plays fast, and
Yeah.
ball skills that he needs for basketball, they show up on the football field.
Yeah,
Both
it's
those things.
yeah, and I mean Bryce Fitzgerald is one of those guys, and perfectly leads me into my final hot take, David.
Okay.
And my last hot take was Bryce Fitzgerald gives Miami a freshman All-American on defense for the third
Ooh,
straight season.
that's hot.
That's hot,
Okay.
right? So
I
Ruben
didn't
Bain,
even know you were gonna
obviously,
say that.
yeah, that's my last hot take. That's
Wow.
my last hot take.
So
That
do
was
you
gonna
have
be
him starting,
no, just I think that he's just
picking
gonna
off
be. Yeah,
passes?
I think what I
Okay.
wrote was I just think in a this is exactly where I'm a believer in the skill set and the athletic profile. Nobody expected Frederic to be as ready as he was last year, and Fitzgerald maybe following the same track after a strong fall camp. His ball hawking ability could allow him to capitalize on his opportunities, earn him some national recognition, even if it's in a rotational role. So I think if it's an opportunity where Bryce Fitzgerald gets on the field, somehow he needs to kind of rotate in. If he makes the most of those opportunities and those ball hawking skills come up and he
Yeah.
picks off a few passes, like how many true freshman safeties are really playing in college football? Like I feel like Bryce Fitzgerald could sneak like quietly if this continues to trend this way, where maybe he can be maybe relied upon, even if it's later on in the season, whatever the case is, as time kind of goes. Maybe it's early, I don't know. But if Bryce Fitzgerald makes the most of his opportunities in the way that he's been making the most of them in fall camp, hey, if he picks off a few passes here or there, like I wouldn't be surprised if he's, headlining some of those groups or he finds his way into some of those like freshman All-American lists at the end of the season. Again, these are hot takes,
Yeah.
but
No, that's a good one.
I had questions about Bryce Fitzgerald from a physicality standpoint. That was about where
Which
that's all it
we'll see
was.
with
Yeah,
that,
exactly. You have to
honestly.
see what that looks like, but there's no doubt that he's making the most of his opportunities here and making a strong impression. And again, I think people are buzzing about him. People are really high on
Yeah.
the
He
skill
plays
set and what he
fast. He
brings to the
plays
table.
so fast.
And again, at the end of the day, it's still pretty thin back there. Like I think we feel
Yeah.
good about it, but I think it's still pretty. And maybe like, are you more comfortable with Bryce Fitzgerald or like a Markeith Williams at this point?
Bryce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think at worst, Bryce Fitzgerald's
Bryce makes
probably
plays.
yeah.
So
Bryce Fitzgerald's probably again maybe this is kind of hot. I don't know how you feel about this,
he's
David,
third or
but
fourth. He's
yeah,
gonna be third
I
or
think
fourth.
he's right there. Like
Yeah.
again, I think at worst your fourth safety right now. Um, and I think that's probably a good thing. Like an encouraging development in Bryce Fitzgerald's early development because I think that just shows he's going to be a future starter here. And that's a good thing to have to know that you have a guy that's kind of coming down the pipe that is going to play meaningful snaps for you down the road.
I could see him getting 3 picks this year. I
Yeah.
could see it.
And that could land him on some
Yeah.
freshman All-American lists at the end of the
Right.
year.
Right. He's gonna be good. He plays very fast, and he has a instinct for the football. It's impressive to watch him on the back end
Yeah.
work. All right. My last hot take. This one's hot. I don't even know if I necessarily believe it, but let's go.
Let's
Uh,
roll.
I said the Hurricanes will go undefeated in ACC play during the regular season. So basically, that means they're going to go 8-0 once they start conference play after the first month of the season. Miami's never done this, of course, since joining the ACC. They've gone 7-1 once back in 2017, the one time they went to the ACC championship game. Last year's team, as everyone remembers, they got to November undefeated and then finished their ACC schedule 6-2. So this is a hot take, and why do I feel this way? Well, number one, like I do think Miami's going to be in Charlotte. I think they're going to be in the ACC championship game. And you go back and I went back and looked over the past 10 years, 7 teams that played in the ACC championship game went 8-0 in the regular season. So 2024 SMU, 2023 Florida State, 22 Clemson, 20 Notre Dame. That was when the COVID year they were in the ACC. 2019 Clemson, 2018 Clemson, 2015 Clemson. So um, chances are one of the teams in the ACC championship game are going to be undefeated. Another reason why I made this hot take is because I feel like this Miami team is built to win in November because I think it will be better in the run game and it'll be better on defense. And as we know, right, Miami's thing, unfortunately, for the last 20 years is they'll have a great September, they'll have a solid October, and then things kind of fall apart in that critical month of November. college football becomes a war of attrition in that month of November. And the teams that can just, they have the bodies and they have the talent to physically impose their will on opposing teams on offense with their run game, control the game that way, shorten the game that way, and also play good defense. Those teams are the teams that win in November. And, you think back to last year's November losses, Georgia Tech, right? Georgia Tech was the one who controlled the game on the ground. They ran for 271 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. Miami ran the ball for 88 yards, no touchdowns in that game. And look, their identity at that point was just we're going to throw it a lot with Cam, and I was here for that. But Georgia Tech was the physical, impose their will team in that game that controlled the clock, time of possession, and they won that game 28-23. Of course, the 42-38 loss to Syracuse was a disastrous effort by the Miami defense, and they squandered a 21-0 lead. So, I do have high expectations for this offensive line and the trio of Jordan Lyle, Mark Fletcher, Shamar Brown. I think it's going to be a strength of the team. And as we've discussed, Gabby, I think the defense is going to be much improved. The November slate this year, just because the SMU game falls on November 1st. So
Yeah.
that is they got 5 games in November this year at SMU, Syracuse, NC State, at Virginia Tech, at Pittsburgh. And look, man, at SMU is going to be tricky. NC State's going to be tricky. At Virginia Tech, at Pittsburgh, that's going to be
Yeah.
tricky road games, right?
Yeah.
But
For sure.
if Miami can lean on their run game, lean on their offensive line, play really good defense, they are the more talented team that should be able to win those games. And look, on the flip side too, right? Another thing to note, Miami does have to play 7 straight conference games, which I think annoys a lot of people inside the program that the schedule worked out that way. On the flip side, right? Miami doesn't leave the state of Florida until that SMU game
Yep.
on November 1. Also on the flip side, they have bye weeks surrounding their biggest ACC brand matchups of the year, bye weeks around Florida State and Louisville. So you handle those games, then it's just going to be, all right, we got to go handle this
Grind of a
7 yeah,
schedule.
this grind of 7 straight
Look, I
weeks.
think
So,
Clemson had that last year, and they
yeah.
had some sort of. I think when they were playing in the AC championship game, I think it was like their 8th straight week playing or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, it, it's doable. Clemson obviously got in because Miami absolutely folded, but
Yeah, but they went 7
yeah,
and 1 though.
yeah,
They went
yeah.
7 and 1.
They did, and then they won the ACC championship game. So like, you good teams, you got to find a way to just
Yeah.
deliver with what's given to you. You got to find a way to just find ways to win these ball games. And I think Miami's constructed this roster in a way to sustain this, to kind of be able to handle all of that because it's deep, it's talented, and I think within the scope of the ACC, there aren't a lot of rosters that are built quite like Miami's. So,
Right.
there's no excuses this year.
Especially
There's
on the
no
line of
reason.
scrimmage. Who
Yeah. No, no. I mean,
I
Clemson.
but Clemson's offensive line is
Yes.
is, it's ACC good.
Yeah. Their
So,
defensive line is real.
their
I think its
defensive line is
line is
legit.
real life good. Yeah.
But Miami is the best line of scrimmage team in this
I
conference
agree.
this year by far, I think.
I agree.
Clemson I think is second. I don't
Wide
know.
gap.
I don't
Wide
know
gap.
who's third.
Wide gap,
So,
and then third. I don't know who third was. Be. I would guess. I would assume maybe Louisville, but I don't even know about
I
SMU. I
don't
don't even know
know.
what SMU's got.
I think
Um,
Duke honestly is in the
yeah,
conversation.
Duke's got a couple
And
good
Georgia
defensive linemen.
Tech's O-line's pretty
Yeah,
good. So,
Georgia Tech could be in there
anyways, this is the year I think Miami finally handles business, and I think they do it in a significant way. 8-0 in ACC play, and if they do that, they're going to be in the college football playoff.
for sure.
Okay, let's get out of here on that note. Appreciate everyone for listening. Hopefully, this provided another window into just how we view this team. We'll do like an official season preview here, maybe on in game week leading up to the season. Week 0's this week. It'll be a lot of fun. Football's right around the corner. Farmageddon
Let's
across the
go.
pond's going to be
Oh yeah.
happening this weekend. So get a little taste of college football. I'm excited for it. I think this team's going to be really good. So appreciate everyone for listening. Hey, go get a VIP subscription to Inside View. It's at 50% off, which runs you about $60, I believe. So go support us that way. It's going to be a fun year. And till next time, take care.